Back when I did that shop tour video, I told you I was going to get a new bandsaw to replace this old Delta. This is like a 1955 model that actually had a 1 horsepower base and motor upgrade on it at one time, but I did actually order one to replace it, and luckily I ordered it before I started the kitchen there, before the stove went, so it was back ordered, and it took a little while to get, so I finally it was delivered last week, and it was just basically unloading it, getting it off the truck, and getting it into my shop. It was delivered by UPS Freight. Laguna provides a tailgate service, which I took advantage of because it's actually a little bit over the right about at the exact capacity for my tractor. The bill of lading said it was like 489 pounds, and my tractor can handle about 500 pounds on those forks sticking out front there, so you can see the rear wheels are just barely touching the ground with the bandsaw box on there, and it's kind of wide, so I didn't want to take a chance of unloading it with the loader up in the air, so I waited a couple extra days for their tailgate service, and luckily the guy had a shorter truck this time, and he was able to back into my driveway and get off the road and do it, so that was real easy. Took about 2 minutes to get it off the truck, and then I just had to bring it around and move it into my garage. Problem is I can't get it into my shop. The crate's just too wide to go through the door. The door is only, I think, 30 inches wide, and it's about 29 inches of clearance between the moldings or something like that. So I had to start up in my garage and pretty much open it up there and then move it down. So there's the box. Arrived in good shape. Little nick in a corner and a couple of little tears in the outer surface of the cardboard, but nothing went through, and there was no damage to it or anything. The thing was, it was put on a nice skid and hooked down to that skid like that. You can see it had those nice steel straps on it, where whenever I got a grizzly tool, that was just sitting on a skid sliding around, and especially my joiner got completely trashed when they were unloading it and stuff. So this was really well packaged, and it did have good protection for the ride. So the first thing I did is open the box up. The very heavy cardboard, and actually I was surprised to see that this thing shipped laying down. I was expecting to see it shipped standing up on a pallet and stuff like that. So this was a big surprise to me, but it was really, really well packaged. I couldn't believe it when I opened it up. Everything was in styrofoam. They had a custom molded insert there, you can see, and on the top of that insert they dropped in the fence and the fence rail, and there was a nice pocket for the table to set in there in a nice flat spot. So everything was really well protected, and it looked good at this point. There didn't seem to be any kind of damage to anything. I have to say, this is really actually the best pack tool that I have ever bought. It just had these heavy custom foam inserts. Everything was cradled in foam, and it was just, the inserts are made right so that there was no rubbing in any spots or anything like that, and all the paint, was in good shape and stuff when it arrived. So first thing I did is I pulled that top insert off, and there you can see it laying on its side in there, very well protected. And the box itself is it's about 82 inches long, and then it's about 34 inches wide, and then it's about 23 inches tall, I think it was, not counting this skid. A little bit taller with this skid on it. So I just stood there and stared at it for a while after getting the plastic off, and everything was in real good shape. Didn't look like any damage or anything, so that's always a relief when you get something on the truck from, miles away. And for some reason, I decided to put the rubber feet on first. I thought I was going to stand it up, but turned out I really couldn't. So they do give you a nice wrench with it, though. For the one wrench pretty much fits everything that you have to assemble on it. So that's really, it's a real nice feature of it. So it turned out that I had to actually turn this thing around and turn it on its end. And I think it's 416 pounds, they say. And without the table and stuff, I'm thinking that this assembly here is probably about 350. So I wound up spinning it around so I get one end off the pallet there and get a little bit of leverage on it, and then flipping it up on its back like that. Because it turned out this was the only way I could possibly get it through my door into my shop. And then I had two of these little Harbor Freight 1,000-pound dollies, and I put one on each end of it, and they are a real lifesaver at times. So I figured I'd take it around on them. So I strapped it down to them and got some clamps on it to hold everything together so it would not move around and not get scratched up or anything, and put a couple clamps on the bottom there. So I was all ready to attack the move to my shop. It's always fun trying to move something big and heavy around like this without damaging it. I decided to use the forks on the tractor to bring it around because we were lucky. We had about a foot of snow last week, but we got a lot of rain and some warm weather, and the snow finally melted. So today is the first day where my yard is snow free. So I just slid the forks underneath those dollies, and you can see I picked it right up on the dollies, and actually I clamped them right down to the pallet forks here so it couldn't go anywhere, and then threw another strap on it just to hold it from moving. So now it's time just to make the trip around to the back. I had the camera aimed at the sun here, as you can see, so this isn't really that great a shot, but having the bandsaw, I just kind of backed by the loader and a little bit of the weight removed by removing the table and stuff out of it was a much safer trip around to the shop. So the ground, here you can see the snow is all gone. I mean, yesterday was the last of the snow. It's gone, but the trouble is the ground is still extremely moist and muddy. So you'll see some pretty deep tire tracks that I left while I was doing this, but I was able to, get it down there with absolutely no problems and no damage. So that, that was a real relief. And those little pallet forks, I think they're 1,500-pound capacity pallet forks I got from that Titan company last year. They've been really handy. I've used them for a lot of things, and they do make life a lot easier when you're working alone. So got around to my door, and there you see how narrow the door is, and so I just set it down, and I had to go back and take all the clamps off everything so I could just drop it down on the wheels there. And then it was just going to be, an easy job to get it into the shop without damaging it. The best part is I retired the beginning of this year, and Uncle Sam started paying me back some of the money that I loaned him over the years. So actually, Uncle Sam bought this for me. So it is, it is fun being retired now, I guess. So I got that off the pallet forks, and then put a couple pieces of board there just to help it get over the threshold, and pretty much those dollies just made it an easy job to roll it in. I tell you what, they're really worth it. I think with those coupons they were about $10 or $11 at Harbor Freight, and they can make life a lot easier. So got that through the basement and into my shop there, and got ready to try and stand it up now. So everything, zero damage, everything stayed clamped good, nothing moved, and I protected the finish wherever I was touching it and stuff. So no marks, no damage, no nothing. So I got the one dolly, I pulled it up and slid that one out, and then I had the other dolly there, and got my wife to be there just for safety's sake in case I couldn't hold it. So I picked it up and I told her to just slide that dolly in if I can't hold it, and pry it in there to hold it. But luckily I was able to control it. I would recommend at least 2 people for standing this thing up, though, because it is definitely quite heavy. But there it is. I got it stood up, no problem. And these dollies are a lifesaver. I did not buy the wheel kit from Laguna. I'm waiting for a lower cost one to come. So hopefully I'll get that next week sometime. But there it is. First looks at it, everything seems to be good. Everything, no problems with the finish. It looks like everything works smoothly and stuff. The table is looks like it's ground nice. So if I'm just gonna take this and clean it off a little bit to put it together, start assembling, doing some of the assembly here, and a little bit of WD-40. And I was really amazed at how quick and easy this protectant wiped off that they had. It just came right off, no problem. The WD-40 softened it and came right off. Really a breeze to clean up. And I'm just going to throw it together today, and hopefully next week I'll get some time, because with the kitchen and a bunch of other things going on, I'm a little bit busy right now. But I'm hoping next week to get some time to go through it, line item by line item, and set it up, put the blade on it, go back and check table flatnesses, and put indicators on the wheels and everything, so I can, get a good idea of where it stands. So this basically is just, just the first slapping it together video, which didn't take that long at all. And I always put that Johnson's paste wax on all my metal surfaces, and use WD-40 to clean it up. There's a little bit of grit in those trunnions there I had to clean out, but wasn't that bad. They were ground real nice, and everything looked to be well made. And the table just dropped right in place. There were 2 studs hanging off the bottom of the trunnions, and you just had to drop them and just kind of wiggle them into the holes, and it went together nice. It seated in there nice and fit really good. And then you have to go down underneath, and a couple of handles to put on there, screw on the bottom of those bolts that stuck through. I had to fiddle with them for a while, because they're those little handles that you have to pull down, and they're spring loaded, and they kind of ratchet on the spline. So I just finally figured out if you pushed up on the screw in the middle, you could turn them pretty easy and get them to go in there. So there really was not much assembly on this, so it pretty much came assembled. You had to drop the table on, and then there's a ruler there that's for the fence, and there's some big slots in it, so I'm just setting it in place now. Once I get the blade on it, like I said in the next video, I should be going through and setting all this up and checking it. So for now, I'm just mounting it with the 2 screws that come with it. Yeah, the thing that really impressed me was the size of the work table on this, and actually it's at a much more comfortable height than my old Delta was too. So with that little gauge just loosely in place, I'm gonna put the rail on there for the fence. That was just another easy to assemble item. It came with 2 socket head cap screws and a couple spacers to space it out, and just have to line it all up and get that little spacer in the little counterbore pocket that you have to kind of get the spacer in there, and then it all falls in place and goes together. And like I said before, they give you that 1 T-handle wrench, and it basically does everything. It fits all the everything that's had to go together so far, and it looks like it will take care of most of the adjustments on the machine also. So that's a nice feature. It is a solid steel rail, and it's it's a real substantial rail here that they put on there. So I think the fence will be real sturdy and accurate once you get it set up. So then there's the sliding part of the fence. And then the fence of the aluminum extrusion that can be stood up like this, or you can actually lay it down on its side for cutting thinner pieces, so you can still get the top blade guide down, and that just slides in place, and it's all going to have to be adjusted later and set for drift of the blade. So then they give you a nice stop that slides right into it. It's got the same little ratcheting mechanism in there, so you have to play with a little bit to get it set the first time, but it's real nice and tight, and that's good for cutting like tenons and stuff like that. You'll be able to set that once I get the blade in, and I'll be able to get everything set up. And there's a little strip, like a little ruler strip, that gets mounted in there next. That there it is there, and that you're going to set 0 on the front edge of the blade, and then you can use that to adjust the stop with, so that you can control your cut of your tenon. And I just bought one of these shear force blades to start out with. Came packaged nice, and there's a real good description about different types of blades and how they work and what they're for inside the packaging, which I thought was really nice too. That'll be the blade that goes on it. And basically this is the video about just bringing it in and getting it together, and that's what it looks like. It is a real big saw compared to the old Delta, definitely. It's fit and finish on it is really nice. I just have to go back and clean some dust off of it now from moving it around and stuff. But the table is really nice ground job, all chamfered and everything else, no sharp edges. It's got a really smooth upper blade guide there that seems to be very sturdy and locks in place really good. So it looks like I think I made the right decision going with this Laguna. It's my first Laguna tool, and I just probably won't be my last after seeing the quality so far. So anyhow, I just thought I'd just kind of walk you through what I actually went through with this machine to get it into my shop. It would be nice if I had a nice 36-inch wide door and could have just rolled it in the crate and dealt with it down there, but I didn't, so it did take a little bit of extra time to move it around. And hopefully next week I'll get my mobile base, and I'll get my wiring in place, and I'll get the old saw out of there and get this one moved in, and start going through it, setting up from there, and make another video about it. And I'm sure there'll be several more in the future also. And with 16-inch resaw capability, this thing will saw just as wide as my little Hudson HFE 21 will, I think. So anyhow, and it does have a really nice foot brake on it. That's a real nice feature. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.